It's time for Show Me the Franchise.
With Thomas and Frederick. With Thomas and Frederick.
It's time for Show Me the Franchise.
With Thomas and Frederick. With Thomas and Frederick.
Welcome to Show Me the Franchise, the podcast that talks about franchises of all shapes, sizes, backgrounds, genres, and types. I am one of your hosts, Tom Stadler, here as usual with my fellow host for this evening of celebration, honoring the best movies of the year, the director, the producer, and the writer, all in one, Mr. Frederick Dakin.
It is a privilege and an honor to receive this introduction.
Fred, we're talking about the movies.
The movies. I love them.
I mean, it's you and I defying podcasting.
There you go. There's a reference. And, you know, things going to get pretty brutal on here. I'm going for the easy ones.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Brutal. Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. I mean, we're going to be like a Rolling Stone. I know. I'm going through all the nominees.
I'm looking. It's going to have good flow.
Oh, yeah. Good flow.
And from our lips into that wild robot, we'll record this. And what was the one with Demi Moore turned into a monster?
The Substance.
Yeah. It's going to be substantial. Substantial.
That's right, folks. It's once again that time of year.
If you think you can do it, we're accepting challengers, okay?
Oh. One problem with, listen, this is our best movies of 2024 episode. It does not all have to be Oscar nominated, although obviously that is kind of the structure we're working around, and we have worked around. So if you remember past episodes, and this can't be our fifth annual, is it?
I think I thought it was just our third.
Because I think our first two were officially Oscars episodes where we did the history of the Oscars. But this time, and then we rebranded as Best Movies either last year or 2 years ago.
That is Nosferatu to me. I tried to do news and Nosferatu. It sounded better in my head.
These are very valiant attempts, Fred. I'm appreciating it. It's a Nora good time.
A Nora good time?
A more of a good time.
That's a Nora.
That's a Nora. Yeah, there we go. You're giving me memories of a snail, Fred. I can't. I'm struggling here. This isn't all coming to me, but it is once again our best movies of 2024. If you have remembered our past episodes, so we are going to be talking about each of like the major categories today for the movies in 2024. Talking about our best our favorite supporting performances, our favorite lead performances, favorite directing, or favorite achievement in directing, favorite maybe not documentaries this time. We'll see. We'll talk. Favorite animated movies. Favorite musical scores, movies that we saw in 2024 that were not released in 2024, and of course, the best picture of the year.
Ooh.
Fred, what was your overall thought on the movies of 2024?
I know what a lot of people feel about this year, and I mostly agree that it was like overall pretty meh year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not dumping it on as much because I feel there is a flow to the years of movies, a back and forth. And we had quite a solid year last year, where it felt like there was so many movies I was worried weren't going to get their just desserts. And it kind of did happen. We did have like a big Oppenheimer sweep for the most part. There were definitely surprises, Emma Stone being one of them. That was a surprise for me.
Yeah, very big.
I liked a lot, but it still surprised me. That's why at the end of last year, I just kind of had the feeling, and also I'm sure the strike had a lot to do with it too, that we were going to be going into a okay year, you know?
Yeah.
There's still a lot of movies I liked a lot. I have 5-star movies on my list, you know, and some of them were nominated, which I think if I get 2 movies a year that I want to give 5 stars to on my letterbox, because that's what matters to me, I'm a happy camper. I don't need a lot. And there was other good stuff. There was little things that I liked and a lot of different attempts. What did you think?
Yeah, I kind of with you on that front because I think what I thought overall was, I think what I thought. I know what I thought.
Sing, my guy.
Sing. I'm gonna sing like a canary. Sing. It is, which is a movie I liked a lot, and I think there's a lot of movies. There's not a lot of movies I liked a lot. There are movies I liked a lot. You're right. I think overall the quality of the year was meh, kind of mid, but the top of the crop was good. And I think there were some that it was like, wow, that was definitely like an impactful movie I'll be remembering for a long time now. But I kind of think about this like this happens with like the NFL draft and like all this too. Sometimes you'll have them say like, oh, this draft isn't as good as like the last one, or it's just typically not a good draft. And that doesn't mean there's not good players. It just means there's not as many good players. Like the top of the draft might still have a Hall of Fame player, which I think, yeah, there's a couple Hall of Fame movies here. But overall, I'm like, after you get to the first 10, it's sort of like, yeah. And even the 10 that they picked, I think there was a case that like, did we even need 10 this year? Like,
yeah, that's another good point. That was what I think was around the Dark Knight years when they bumped it up to 10. It's kind of, I think, you don't need that many I don't think they have to push for that number necessarily.
Right.
And I will say about, the back and forth, there was a lot of movies I liked this year. And I'm thinking next year we're going to have an Ari Aster movie. We're going to have a PTA movie.
Yeah.
I know there's more. I'm not going to bother looking up, but I'm just saying I really think there's something to this like back and forth. I think maybe the industry as itself, even without a strike, needs to have a reset.
Yeah, but I think that is a huge point, though, is the fact that there was that strike and now there has been all this time needed to make more movies that like next year feels like it's going to be encapsulated all in one individual year. So already talked about the categories we're going to cover today, but basically the way that Fred and I are going to format this is that we're going to talk about our favorite nominations, our favorite non-nominated performances or movies. So things that maybe could have or should have been nom, but otherwise things that just deserve being called out, I think is the way we can look at that category. We'll give our predictions of who should win the Oscar and who will win the Oscar. So, you ready to dive in?
Oh, I'm ready to dive in.
Yeah, we won't keep everybody waiting here. We won't. Yeah. Because we're not just blowing in the wind.
You can't just keep doing Bob Dylan ones.
Why not? Why not? Don't think twice, Fred.
Oh, well, I'm going to play a little song for you. That's me doing. That's my little Ed Norton.
This land is your land.
Hope y'all like it. Sing along if you know it.
Which is perfect segue to our first category, which is our Best Supporting Actor category.
As for usual, I have quite a few on this list. Why don't we hear what they have nominated by the Academy?
The Academy has nominated Mr. Yura Borisov, Mr. Kieran Culkin, Edward Norton, Guy Pearce, and Jeremy Strong. And that is and this is respectively, Anora, A Real Pain, A Complete Unknown, The Brutalist, and The Apprentice. It's The Apprentice, Fred. You got
Donald. You gotta attack.
you gotta attack Donald. You gotta be on top of it. I kind of want to talk about that performance right out the gate too, because Jeremy Strong, I thought, was really good. But one thing that kind of bugged me throughout the whole movie, he had this very subtle head nod as he was talking to him the whole time. And I'm like, he's got like a chicken thing going.
Well, it's really easy to get into the like New York accent if you start bobbing your head a little bit.
Yeah. So you ended up catching The Apprentice then?
I did. I actually remember pre-election being pretty excited for this movie. I had a pretty optimistic outlook about how election might go. So when I saw this movie coming down the pipe, I was like, sure, yeah. I don't think this movie is going to be a glamorization of Donald Trump, and it isn't.
No.
It really isn't. I kind of expected most filmmakers to make this movie, and we're going to have a scene that's going to make it look appetizing to be Donald Trump, and it really never does it. The smart thing I think the filmmakers talked about is this is kind of like the movie of like it's a Frankenstein movie with Jeremy Strong as Dr. Frankenstein,
Yes.
Donald Trump being kind of like this doofus that he turns into a monster and then he turns on him. It's kind of a great way to frame it, even so that there's the scene where he's getting like his tummy tuck and his hairline. It looks like some Frankenstein stuff. And I liked the movie a lot. You know, it was something that I was definitely putting off watching, but I think it was really kind of like fun in some ways, but just smart on how it was put together. And the two performances are kind of mind blowing, I think.
But yeah, no, for sure. I think they both were really good, and they both got lost in their characters, which is something Jeremy Strong is known for.
What?
Yeah, but I thought, to speak to him specifically, I really thought that he was just embodying this role. You could sort of understand and see, outside of some of the stuff that was very on the nose in The Apprentice, of just like, I don't even know, like, oh, you should run for president. Like, okay, yes, I'm sure the conversation came up, but it was not like, oh yeah, and make America great again. It's like, okay, come on now, don't.
I get it. I do have a thing that I'll probably save more when we talk about The Brutalist, on how subtlety can work and can also be not needed in a movie.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I see that in both The Apprentice. I think it works, but I do get you. It is a little like, okay, we get it.
Yeah, exactly. But I think there is something though too in his attitude and the way that the character comes across, and you really see that so much in like what Donald Trump ends up becoming. And as much as it's just like, oh right, like he had to have learned this somewhere, and it's like he had all these rules. It's just even the attitude, the way that he goes about life. He just doesn't take anything from anybody. He won't listen to anyone. He's just very like insistent on his point of view, and like whether or not he actually even believes his point of view. It's just so, and it's just such a commanding performance, and I was very impressed.
Definitely. Two things I would say about this, and we're getting a lot of Apprentice talk out of the way too, so that helps.
Yeah.
A good double feature for The Apprentice. Not that I'm rushing to rewatch. I feel The Apprentice and The Devil's Advocate.
Oh.
Are two very similar, different toned movies.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes the tone kind of goes over. There's big performances in both, but I think they're very similar. Whereas like you have like the devil like spoofing up a bad guy, except in the other movie it's Keanu Reeves and he's kind of a guy we cheer for. Whereas this, it's a little different. But I will say specifically about Jeremy Strong's performances, he does something that we couldn't get from the Donald Trump performance. Even I think if Sebastian Stan like tried his ever loving heart to do. I felt bad for Roy Cohn at the end of the movie, even though he's a terrible dude too,
Yes.
or was a terrible guy. Like I think it's the performance. The dinner table at the end, where he's like his birthday is kind of heart wrenching. Even though I'm like, fuck this guy, but like still, I feel for him, and I was very happy the movie never made me feel that way about Donald Trump.
I know, right? Which I think, there is a lot of sliding door stuff there of like, what would have happened to Trump had he never met this guy? Like, would he have turned out to be somewhat of a normal person, even a nobody specifically? Like, it's very possible. It's a huge sliding door moment, the fact that he met this guy and was like, oh, you need to help with this case. And you realize, too, it's just like so much of what Roy Cohn was, as we kind of understand through the movie, is like a lot of overcompensation for what he kind of felt like was like, this like secret of his, of the fact that he was a homosexual, closeted, very deeply closeted. But it's just like the fact that like he even denied it till he died. And it's like, boy, he could have been using this in such a different way and weaponizing that in such a different way for good. And I don't know. It's all the sliding door moments of just that stigma that sort of created this, I don't know, this very negative energy that just got translated in a very bad way,
Yep, and I just love and I guess we should say like we're gonna do like some spoiler stuff, but I feel like The Apprentice, I feel fine spoiling stuff. It
Yeah.
happened, kind of, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, read a history book, nerds.
Yeah, read the history book about Donald Trump. But I just love like the whole thing is like, all the shit that he's known for, he just like took from another guy.
Right.
Like the art of the deal and all that. It's literally just the points that like he learned and took as his own.
Yeah, exactly. But lest we spend too much time on Jeremy Strong, I mean, I think the fact is you brought up already, Edward Norton was also very good in a very like a role I've never seen Edward Norton play, which is just like the very, very, very generous, nice guy, even when he sort of didn't agree with Bob Dylan and he wanted to let him know. But you know, he was still very understanding. Just the most Midwest nice guy.
Definitely Midwest nice, and like I didn't get any of that like I don't know like little asshole vibe that you usually get from an Edward Norton performance, which I love.
Yeah.
I love asshole Edward Norton, but this was nice to have him as just like a strong, calm presence in it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things that makes it so good is when you do have the context of another Edward Norton performance, you realize how good he is in this because you're like, he usually doesn't play that. He's usually, you know, he's a little bit of a like you say, he's a weasel, or he's sort of, you know, oh God, poor me. Why do I have to be stuck with the Hulk? Why do I have to be stuck with Brad Pitt and all that? You know, it's like, no, it's like, it's just kind of crazy. Or it kind of reminded me of his character from Primal Instinct before you find out that like he's another spoiler alert here, but that he's faking it all. Right. I don't know. Just sort of that of like, he's like, oh, how could he be this guy? And like, I think that's still a great Edward Norton role.
I still recommend, like, I haven't really watched the roasts in a long time, but to watch the Edward Norton clip for the Bruce Willis roast, he pretty much does like he's doing himself in movies like That Thing, but he's like satirizing himself in the roast being that guy.
Yeah.
And it's like, it might be one of my favorite Edward Norton performances because it's like aware of his bullshit, but it's funny. I really recommend checking that out.
That's pretty great. I do like the roasts, man. Sometimes they really hit in a certain way that you don't expect. I guess, do we want to talk about Kieran Culkin, or should we kind of save it for the last part? I mean, listen, there's a reason why I think he's kind of the anchor on this category. I don't have a lot to say about, I mean, Yura Borisov was really good in Anora, but it's sort of like, you just kind of see it as like, oh man, who's this person? And it's like kind of a cool nod of like, you know, welcome to American cinema. Looking forward to seeing what you do next, you know?
Yeah, he's on my list, not my pick, because he is such a needed component to that movie that is like pure like anxiety. It's like the Uncut Gems thing, and like him in that movie is kind of like the breath of air you need. And so I do really respect it, but he's kind of got a lot of competition here and a lot going on, and definitely I'll reserve any more to say. I guess do we want to talk about Guy?
I don't know if I have a lot to say about Guy Pearce, to be honest. It was a good performance. I'm glad he's back, kind of getting recognized for good work, but it's a...
Yeah, I mostly agree with that. I kind of just want him to get his like due, but maybe this will kind of open him up for more. Yeah, because I've always loved him since like LA Confidential, especially. Like he's always great. Iron Man 3. But yeah, I feel he's great, but I don't know if there was enough stuff for me to get excited about.
Yeah, it was a good performance though. That I was like, when he got nominated, I was like, it makes sense. You watch The Brutalist, and you're like, yeah.
And if he wins a career Oscar, I'm not going to be upset about it.
But I mean,
it's not my choice. But
before we get to who we think will win, any other nominate or like performances you wanted to recognize as a supporting performance?
So I was kind of late with some homework, but I did want to call out some small supporting roles because there's nothing better than like someone getting nominated for like a one scene role.
Yeah.
And I found two actors in the movies I watched last night that I wanted to add on here. One is in Nickel Boys. There's an actor called Trey Perkins. And once you watch that, I won't spoil much for it, but there's the scene, the whole movie plays with time, and there's fast forwards where Daveed Diggs plays one of the main characters in the future. And he sits at a bar with one of the other boys, not the two main characters, but another boy who is at the reform school.
Sure.
And this guy comes in, and you've only known him as a little boy in the beginning. And it's just definitely like a show-stopping performance. And it's just this bar scene, and that's it.
Nice.
And I think when you watch it, I think you'll click into it. I don't know if anyone's really else like clicked into that performance, but I loved it. And then the other one, I'll have to probably point out more who he is, was in Sing Sing.
Mm.
And it's a very small role. His name, and this was his only credit because I think a lot of the people in it were actually like Sing Sing prisoners or were part
Yes.
of the program at least.
Mm-hmm.
Sean Dino Johnson. Now he is the really big bald guy who's older.
Yes.
Who calls out? Is it Mad Eye?
Yeah.
Or-
Mad
no,
Eye
it was-
Moody.
No, they have the same Divine Eye.
Yeah, Divine.
Because they both have like the same first part. But yeah, Divine Eye, the older actor who calls him out about kind of getting mad when the guy walks behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And he also plays like the big gladiator guy. He just had a presence in it. Being like a non-actor, which I don't really want to say that because obviously he acts, but I'm saying someone who didn't have like a list of IMDb credits. That was the performance that stood out the most other than the main performance. Everyone was talking about the Divine Eye performance, which is great.
Yeah.
But of the non recognizable actors, that was the guy who stood with me.
Yeah. No, that guy was also very good though in that movie. And actually Clarence Macklin, who plays Divine Eye, I think he is Divine Eye. So it's like,
Yeah.
to understand for anybody who hasn't seen Sing Sing, it is, and it actually was one of the coolest reveals. So I'm sorry they were kind of spoiling this, but you find out that a lot of people in this movie are playing themselves in this story, like at the end of the movie, and they were all part of this drama club that was part of this prison. And I thought he was very good though. And I mean, it's a cool story to see all that come to life, and you realize that this was sort of like their life story that is being put on screen, and that they all got to actually play the roles too and show like, hey, we are legitimate actors. So he was great. I would call out Paul Raci in that movie though too, who was also in like Sound of Metal. He's the guy, he's like the director of the play in that movie.
Yes.
And he's just, man, what a solid guy. He looks like a dude who doesn't look like he has like credits, but then you start looking at his work and you're like, oh, this guy's been like working for years. He's just kind of all over.
The movie was filmed with one scene performances by a lot of people you won't recognize. And to me, those were the best parts of the movie. The guy who was released from prison, who comes back and talks about his life now that he's out of prison, about his dog. That was
great.
Another one that like I was just like, oh wow, you know.
It's a gut punch too, a little bit when he's talking about that. Have you seen all the nominees then, or the Best Picture nominees?
I only missed the one with the vague title with Fernando Torres.
Oh, I'm Still Here.
I'm Still Here.
Great. Well, then I haven't seen Nickel Boy, so we'll fill each other in.
That's what I was. That was my big jump on why I wanted to watch Nickel Boys, was because I was like, I know you haven't seen it. I didn't know what else you had seen. I was like, someone here should see it.
Yeah,
and
right.
I'm really glad I did.
So let's talk about who should win and who will win. What's your pick for who should win?
I'm very game for Kieran Culkin to win.
Yeah.
And I think he will win.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll let you speak. I was just going to say before I forget, I just feel like this is the type of performance he's been honing through Succession.
Yep.
And this was the uncapping. And I kind of also selfishly want him to get the award so I can see like what's next.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. I think Kieran Culkin really hit my radar, like for real, in Scott Pilgrim. And I was like, he started doing that type of character where he's just sort of like the very fast talking, sort of smart ass, like friend or whatever. And, you know, you kind of seen him play a lot of those types of roles over the years. So it's sort of fun to see him finally just like get somebody who wrote this role for him and just let him just completely eat all the scenery in a movie. And I mean, the movie almost doesn't work without him, I think, as much as I like the movie. But I mean, yeah, I'm totally on board with you. I think he should win, and I'm happy he's going to probably win that. And because it's just, I don't know. I think the Culkin brothers are, in general, a family that a lot of people were like, oh, because they're a part of Home Alone and all that. Like, are they even that talented? It's like, I think if they had to work their entire careers, and I mean, Kieran Culkin's pretty much worked his entire career, but if like, I think they're both very good, just anything they do.
What do you think the upset would be of that list?
Oh boy. If there's an upset, I don't think it's going to happen. I'll say that. But man, I don't know if Norton got enough support. He would be the one that I'd be like, that's the performance I think that could upset.
That's what I think the upset is. Like that would be the out of nowhere, and I could see it happening.
Yeah.
I feel like the press push for No Direction Home is huge. And I think,
No Direction Home.
whatever. That's the other movie. No
Uh
Direction Home is the Martin Scorsese documentary about Bob Dylan.
oh, is that right?
What's the new one called?
The
How
Complete
Does It
Unknown?
Feel?
So is there another documentary, or is there another movie about Bob Dylan yet to be made called Like a Rolling Stone, so you can have the entire chorus or the
yeah, it'll help me out at least. But and I also feel like there wasn't push in press, and I haven't been reading a lot about Guy Pearce, so I definitely don't think that's happening. No one's pushing for a lifetime Oscar, but I think it's just like that's going to be the buzz, and hopefully you'll get something more from it.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think we're both though on the Kieran Culkin train, and I'm excited to see what he does from here. Let's talk about actress in a supporting role, and the nominees for that category are Monica Barbaro for Like a Rolling Stone, no, A Complete Unknown.
How does it feel?
How does it feel? Just the entire chorus. I want a whole series of movies. Ariana Grande in Wicked, Felicity Jones in The Brutalist, Isabella Rossellini in Conclave, and I don't know why I said it with some stank like
There's some
that.
German to it. That's on Conclave.
And Zoe Saldana in Emilia Perez. We'll get into Emilia Perez at some point. But what were your favorites of those performances?
So I remember being in No Direction Home. How does it feel? Like a Rolling Stone. I remember being in Like a Rolling Stone, A Complete Unknown, and thinking like, oh, this lady's got presence playing Joan Baez. And I was happy. Like, I didn't think of the performance in that way until I saw the nomination. And I was like, oh yeah, that was really great.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the other big one, which I was very surprised by myself that I thought was amazing, was Ariana Grande in Wicked.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are like, well, she's just kind of playing like a mean like girl who pretends she's nice, and that's kind of who she is. And I'm like, I don't care if it transfers to film and looks good, then that's still a good performance.
Yeah.
Those two, and then I would say I did really like Felicity Jones in The Brutalist. Maybe not too much there, except for the one confrontation scene. There's some other stuff put in there. I like some of her stuff at like when they're eating outside. No, it's the first lunch where she's very assertive about herself.
Yeah.
And showing that she is like an educated career person, where they're kind of like not giving her those bona fides in the moment. I like how like she kind of speaks up for herself in those moments, and especially at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna go down the line. I've already done Isabella Rossellini. Was she in that? And then Zoe Saldana. She really put in some work there, didn't she? Always good, isn't she?
She is. Oh boy, I liked your comment about Isabella Rossellini though in Conclave.
If you want to give her, I don't know if she's been nominated for an Oscar or has won, but if you want to give her a career Oscar, I'm pro career Oscars for people who don't have them.
I guess I just would rather people win for the performances that they earned, and I think to what you said, I thought Felicity Jones did a great job, who I think stuck out as soon as she showed up in part 2 of that movie. Which, I mean, is incredible that they actually had an intermission. Totally agreed on Monica Barbaro, too. I thought she had very surprising presence, especially against Elle Fanning, who is somebody I'm a big fan of in general, and who I think is a really great actress, but I didn't think she had as much to do, but yet somehow she almost got outshone a little bit by her, and I was like, I think that's a high praise from me. That's a good compliment to someone to be like, you outdid an actress who I think never really puts in or phones one in. But yeah, I think Zoe Saldana, she did work. She definitely did work. I do want to talk about Ariana Grande because she's not an actress by trade anymore, right? Like, she was obviously in some Nickelodeon shows or whatever back in the day, but she wasn't doing like high, performing in that regard. So I think when she comes in and throws this performance down, you're like, oh yeah, she's just being a mean girl. But it's like, there is a tenor and something to her. And when you kind of know that she's supposed to be doing a Kristen Chenoweth thing, but you're not really thinking about Kristen Chenoweth until she shows up on screen, it's like, I think that's a pretty good mark that you did something special. And I think when I was watching it, I'm like, all right, I kind of get now why there's this hype around the performances. I mean, nothing to take away from anybody else, but it's sort of like her and Cynthia Erivo make that movie, you know?
Definitely, yeah.
And I thought, yeah, I was wowed. I'm like, I can't wait for part 2. So, what were some performances that didn't get nominated that you wanted to call out?
Trying to look. Let's see.
Because I have one I can start with.
I just go ahead with yours.
I'm gonna call out Rebecca Ferguson in Dune Part 2 because
I almost did.
Fergie never throws. Another person who never phones in a performance, and I'm very nervous that Mission Impossible had to let her go because I think she's one of the best things in those last 2 to 3 movies. And
Oh, for sure.
I'm like, oh man, you guys sure you want to let her go? And I mean, maybe she wanted out, but she's not being asked to carry Dune Part 2, but it still sort of feels like she is anyway. And I mean, just Dune in general, with like a cast that's so stacked from top to bottom, and nobody got recognized for those performances, really. So that's pretty unfortunate. Jason Momoa should have gotten nominated for Part 1.
I get into it.
Dude, Duncan Idaho, it's the greatest character name.
Best supporting name in the
Yeah,
movie.
exactly. It's just he's just got that presence. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
But she's just doing such great work. I think it's so hard to imagine her not in that movie or anybody else trying to pull off what that part is asking for. Or somebody else might have gone over the top with that role, and she made it very grounded and somehow still kind of sold what it needed to be done or needed to do.
I like that. I want to see Rebecca Ferguson in the movie where she talks more again, though.
Yeah.
She hasn't really talked much in her movies.
Which one are you talking about? Like
Dune
Mission?
2,
Yeah.
Mission Impossible. I just think about, my beloved Dr. Sleep, and she's very good and has a lot of dialogue and works that well. And
Well-
she's great at being silent and giving you the looks, which she does a lot of in Dune Part 2 and the Mission Impossible movies. But I just like to hear a little bit more from these days.
Yeah. What was she? Harry the Hat? No.
Rose the Hat.
Rose the Hat. That's it. Yeah. It was a pretty great look.
And an old crow daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, some great names in there.
Absolutely. Old Crow Daddy.
I had for a shout out was for Nickel Boy's Ingenue Ellis. I was surprised this wasn't on there. I thought it was, and she plays the grandmother of one of the boys. And one thing about the movie that I don't know if people have talked about is a lot of it's shot from character perspectives. Like it's kind of almost like a found footage movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of these great scenes with just the one character and her one-on-one and her just giving that straight grandmother love.
Yeah.
And she also has very cathartic emotional scenes. She has a great scene in the middle where the main character is just watching her cut this cake, and she's talking about how her what happened to her dad, which was something that had to do with awful bigotry, and as this movie's mostly about. And I think that scene alone, I was like, oh, this is a great performance, to the point where I looked up and I was like, I can't believe this wasn't one of the supporting actors. But that would be my throw out. So who do you think will win? Who do you think should win?
So I think the will win. It seems like it's a runaway train for Zoe Saldana, and I'm not going to argue it. She's very good in that movie. I don't think the movie's good.
At least the vibe is that's what it's going to win more than likely, and it's less likely the other stuff's going to happen now.
Yeah.
And I would be fine. Like we can enjoy the rest of the night if that's where it ends.
Yes, exactly. And I don't think anybody should, throw her down or put her down because of the quality of the movie or all the controversy surrounding it. That's by no fault of her that it's not good. There's plenty of movies that have been kind of stinkers that have had really great performances in them. And I mean, it just is what it is, but she's done great work for a long time. I think it's cool that it's probably going to come. I think if I had the vote, I might have given it the nod to Felicity Jones or Ariana Grande, but I think I won't complain when Zoe Saldana gets called up.
I think we can leave it at that because that's exactly where I stand. Ariana Grande or Felicity Jones, that would be my picks. A lot of my picks come down to two. There was not like a one for all of these. It's usually two.
Yeah.
But again, if that's what happens for Amelia Perez and that's where we leave it, I'll be very happy.
All right. Well, then that's where we're at. So probably Zoe Saldana is our prediction, taking home the main trophy. Let's talk about actor in a leading role.
The actor.
The nominees are Adrian Brody in The Brutalist, Timothy Chalamet in A Complete Unknown, Fred, Coleman Domingo in Sing Sing, Ray Fiennes in Conclave, and Sebastian Stan in The Apprentice, which we've talked about a little bit. What were your thoughts on these performances? Who would you like of this group?
So I like all these performances. I wasn't as big on Conclave as other people, but it was a hype issue because everyone told me this was a trashy Pope movie.
Yeah.
And it's like a little trashy. It's not. I was hoping it was like they made it sound like it was like Murder on the Orient Express when I read stuff.
Me too.
And going like it was much more austere. It definitely had goofiness to it and a little out there-ness to it. But overall, I was like, this is pretty like study movie. I mean, Ray Fiennes, I mean, if he wins, whatever, because I'll always give him an award, but that is not my pick because he's kind of just doing the thing.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at like Grand Budapest Hotel and you see him like cooking on all levels.
Yeah.
I feel like he's really good in it, but he can do this so easy.
Yeah, does feel like it's not besmirching his performance to say it's sort of a sleepwalking performance for him. It's something that like you give him the material and he's going to give you what he's got. It's sort of the Harrison Ford thing now too of like you give him the lines, he's going to give you a powerhouse performance, but you give him whatever, right?
Definitely. So I will say about Timothée is that he definitely did something that was hard to do, which was he did the Dylan voice and singing, and it never really became laughable, which, you know, Dylan's got kind of a goofy voice. I'm going to say it. And there's only like one or two times in the movie where he like yells and he's kind of doing the thing.
Yeah.
But overall, I'm like, this is kind of like a mannered performance. And I don't know if he's ever talked about this. I think he kind of locked into like, there's almost like a bookish nerd quality to how Dylan talks, and he kind of leaned in more of like, hey man, you don't understand me, man.
Yeah.
Like that versus like the kind of more folksy sounding Dylan.
Right.
I think he probably just like, I'm going to sound like a Redditor or something mixed with Bob Dylan, like a little like, hey man, no one understands what I'm going through, man. Like that kind of deal. And it works.
It does.
It's like gives him a lane to work through versus trying to do like an over the top performance. I mean, I'd rather him win for Dune 2, to be honest, but
he's doing good work in Dune 2 as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, that would be my pick. What about you? I know we'll talk about more, but I just wanted to throw it back to you a little bit more.
I guess I agree with you on Timothée that I thought I was very surprised by the performance, and I'm going to go a step further than you, Fred. I think his voice is better than Bob Dylan's in real life, and I don't think that's an insult to Bob Dylan. I don't think Bob Dylan has that good of a voice, and I think when you can harmonize him a little bit but still sound like Bob Dylan, it's kind of something nice to listen to for 2.5 hours.
Oh yeah.
So I was okay with that, and I thought he was showing why he is getting all these roles. Like, I mean, I've seen him in movies, and obviously you called out Dune Part 2. He's very good in that. I think I would almost rather see him, nominated for that, but I totally understood why they were like, yep, let's give him something and kind of crown him a little bit. I thought with Sebastian Stan and Ray Fiennes and with Coleman Domingo, and I'll kind of knock them all out right here. Good performances that I'm like, I like all these guys. I like the performances. Can't wait for the next thing they do.
Okay.
That's sort of how I felt. Like, I know that they've got the juice to really bring the hammer down. And if you want to talk about some other great Ray Fiennes performances, I mean, obviously Schindler's List is like, that was like his defining moment, I think, of like, oh, this guy will absolutely rock you if you give him the right stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But also just him and playing a bit part. And I think it's characters that sometimes in Bruges, like what a fucking romp of a movie that is. And he's just playing such a, like him yelling with like such pathos. It's so great.
I just love like the first phone call in that movie. He's just got
Yeah.
a little voice. You should go a little place with the canals and you like it. That's good. I want him to have a good time before he gets taken care of, you know what I'm saying? Just like, I love that. And then yeah, when he like yells, it's so funny.
It's just the best. And he had me rolling. I love that movie.
No, it was the alcoves. Is that the big thing in in Bruges?
I think so. Yeah. I have not seen it in years though. I've been like dying to rewatch it at some point, and I just need to find the right reason for it.
St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, St. Patrick's Day thrown in Bruges.
And then you finish up with a little Banshees of Inisherin. Come on, that's a great night. That's a Fred night.
I don't like you no more. But yeah.
There's one you haven't commented on.
Oh, Adrian Brody, are we talking about?
Are you I'll say my opinion.
Yeah.
We already got one of those.
Yeah.
It's called The Pianist.
Yeah.
Which he is amazing in The Brutalist. Like if The Pianist didn't exist. And I'm doing this not because like it doesn't take away from performance. I'm playing the Oscar game when I say things like this.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is also why, not to jump ahead, I think he has a pretty good shot to win this category. Because I think people are like, he did the pianist thing again. And if we got him for that, why wouldn't we do the same thing now? But it's like also like, it is like the same role a little bit.
It's like older, like slightly older, slightly different circumstances, but he's doing a lot of the same like pain and emotions. And it's a great performance. I really like Coleman Domingo and Sing Sing. He is doing like, it's kind of what like similar to Ray Fiennes, even though he's kind of a person I'm noticing more recently. He's kind of doing the thing that I like expect from him in a way.
Yeah.
But also I'd love to see him get an Oscar. So,
I know. Which like, I don't know. You look at that role that he did in The Color Purple. Did you see The Color Purple?
I have not. I need to watch that.
And he's incredible in that. And like, you can tell when it's a guy that, when you give him a character to play versus sort of like him playing like a real person like he is now, and it's just less grounded, and he gets to kind of just really bite into it, and you're like, oh shit,
So
okay,
he can sing.
Oh, I think so. Yeah,
I was just guessing if because it was the.
I
Color
think he's a
Purple
Broadway
musical,
guy.
right?
Yeah, I don't know that he sings in that movie though as much. I'm not sure, but I would not imagine. I would not be surprised if he has pipes.
Mm-hmm. I'll save any more of my thoughts for when we flip it back onto us. But should we talk about who we think will win and should win of the list?
Yeah, I guess we can do that. And then if you want to talk about any other performances you want to
I just don't want to say it because mine will more feed into what I would want to win before I talk about it more.
Then let's talk about who should and will win from this list. So who would be your should?
I kind of think Sebastian Stan should win.
Oh, wow.
But this is not, it's one of those things which happens all the time with Oscars and actors is they give two good performances in a year.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I'm like, that equals one Oscar, even though much like Timothée Chalamet, I prefer he would have gotten the Oscar for the other performance because A Different Man just blew me away. I think that is his best performance of the year by far. Did you check it out?
Not yet.
It's on Max. You should check it out. I was apprehensive to watch it because I just heard mixed things, but when I got in there, I was like, this is great. It's like this dark comedy, but also, I don't know, him at the end, he kind of goes very unhinged, and it's a great performance. So it's kind of like if it was purely just Apprentice, he wouldn't be my number one, but I kind of want to give him that 2 movies for 1 award.
Wow, okay. Because, I would say him and The Apprentice, he's good. Not one I would give an award for, I don't think. Not for me, at least. But I think if I had a should win, oh, man. I know you're kind of talking about it, too. Like, it's sort of, I almost feel like the same thing for Timothée in, like, regard of, like, and I think I kind of want to get it a little bit teed up here. where are all the nominations for Dune Part 2? Did people forget how good that movie is, or what
It's too
happened?
early in the year.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
I'm blown away because like that, if I were talking about like 5-star movies that like are going to be remembered, I'm like, I kind of think Dune Part 2 is going to be among the most memorable movies from last year, and for some reason, it's just very undernominated. I can't figure out why.
Yeah, I do not get that, but I think it's just it was an early in the year thing, and people are expecting the Return of the King thing, which from book readers I hear is not what they're gonna get with Dune 3. Like, it's gonna get weird, or Dune Messiah, whatever they're gonna call it. It's
Right.
not gonna be this epic Return of the King conclusion where they can heap all the Oscars onto, but that's what they think it is. That's what I think happened.
I know they should have never announced that they were going to do a Part 3. They should have just left it at Part 2.
But again, I only had 2 names on my list, and again, it was Coleman Domingo because, like I said, this is something that he's really good at. But I think him working with like a different set of actors, this wasn't a traditional shoot. Also, I just think it'd be great to see him get an Oscar.
Yeah.
So those are my 2, and I don't really have any actors outside of the nominees. Do you have any people for lead actor?
I do. I have a couple.
I'd love to hear those.
Yeah. So if I had to pick a couple that I really liked, I'm going to call out Justice Smith, and I Saw the TV Glow.
Oh, yeah.
Because I thought he was doing so much with a very challenging role in a very strange movie. But I think when you kind of understand the context for what he's going through in that movie, you kind of see that he's doing a lot more than it looks like on the surface. I liked Josh O'Connor in Challengers. I liked that movie a lot in general. And I thought of the two, I think, Mike Feist is great. He's a good actor, but I thought O'Connor was doing a lot in that movie.
Now, Mike Feist should have gotten nominated. Did he get nominated for West Side Story?
He did.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because, man, popping that.
That's why I'm kind of almost like nodding to Josh O'Connor. Like, I think he's a guy we'll kind of see his name called at some point here in the next
It
couple
was
of
the
years.
Grand Budapest Hotel conclave of Mike Feist.
Yeah.
It was like the West Side Story is his Grand Budapest. This was his conclave. He's serving the good Feist, but we know he can do that.
Right. We know what he also is capable of. And then I picked a very odd one here because there's a movie I want to talk about when we start to talk about best movies of the year. And it's a movie called Hundreds of Beavers. Have you heard
I
about
knew you were
this?
going to say it. I did not see it yet.
And Hundreds of Beavers, just very, very quick, and we'll talk a little bit more about it later.
But I thought we weren't counting porn films on this.
Oh, we went blue. We went blue early here.
But I said it very like gently, so
Yeah,
blue.
it didn't sound as creepy, so we can get away with it. But the main actor in that movie, his name is Ryland Brixton Cole Hughes. It's quite a mouthful, but that's the name, and he is really great in that because the whole movie is revolving around him kind of being a Charlie Chaplin, like Buster Keaton type, character doing those types of stunts, and he's doing a lot, and I think he had a lot to do with the movie, like just kind of like producing it and all that too. And so it's a phenomenal effort from him, and he really has like channeling silent movie stars from that bygone era. But if we're talking about who will win, I kind of think Brody might be the guy.
Yeah, just because the Oscars love a Holocaust film.
Yeah.
Like that's there's to say about it.
I think that's exactly where we're landing.
And they also love the movies, and that's the most the movies movie that ever has come out. Like,
Yeah.
it's almost 2 the movies. That's like the most that's the biggest critique for it.
Yeah. I'll save a lot more of my brutalist takes for when we talk about Best Picture,
sure.
but it is definitely a very like Hollywood movie. You're right. Let's talk about lead actress and get to the end of our performances here. So the nominees for this category are Cynthia Erivo in Wicked, Carlos Sofia Gaston in Amelia Perez, and that is a very sigh-worthy nomination given all the things that have been going on around that movie, including with that actress. Mikey Madison for Nora, Demi Moore for The Substance, and Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here. What were your thoughts on this one?
So I am liking the train that's rolling down the station. It's the SS Demi Moore train. I love, and this is what I've been talking about all episode. This is not only a deserved Oscar, this is a lifetime Oscar for
Yeah.
sure. Someone who's been in the business, putting in interesting performance. Not always someone we think of as like one of our greatest dramatic actors, but someone that I think we've loved as a culture for a long time. Mikey Madison, of course, was someone I had clocked since the Scream movie.
Yeah.
Since Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm like, this person's got the goods. So when I heard that she was going to be the star of the Sean Baker movie, I was like, yep, makes sense. This is going to be good. Like, I'll do one more and then I'll switch it over to you. Cynthia Erivo, I think I'm going to put her in the Conclave, Ray Fiennes conversation where this is her just being amazing, but I just have so many performances of hers that I think I like more. Big
Okay.
one. I love her in the Bad Times at the El Royale.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I think it's because, I mean, she's singing in Wicked, but I think it's because she's singing like what's that? I can't think of that producer's name, but the guy who did all those kind of bands that are like the Regina Spektor sort of music.
Oh,
Phil Spector.
Phil
right?
Spector, yeah.
I was combining two people, I think there. The Phil Spector produced style of music.
Yeah.
Like my favorite Christmas album is like just the Phil Spector Presents Christmas,
Yeah.
whatever that is. So I was really in pocket for that. I loved her in the Stephen King TV show. I thought she was really good in the one with Jason Bateman.
Oh, right. Not a following her. I know what you're talking about though. It's like something like The Outsider or whatever. Mendelsohn was
The
in
Outsider. That was it. Yep. And so, Widows. She is great in Widows.
Had
You haven't
not
seen
seen
Widows?
that. No.
I'll let you borrow Widows. I got it on Blu-ray.
All right. Sounds good. I dig it.
So yeah, I'll throw it to you and then I can comment on more.
Okay. I'm right with you there. I definitely thought Mikey Madison was really great, but now she won the SAG, dude. So that's a big sudden backswing here.
That is,
And
most times when you get the SAG, you usually get the award. At least I was looking last night comparing between last year and this year, and I was like, "Ooh boy!"
this might be the biggest toss-up category, I think, of them all. And I'll talk a little bit about it because, yeah, I agree with you on Cynthia Erivo. I know I've seen her in other things and thought she was very good in everything. And it's sort of like it's a very good performance. She's obviously got the pipes to really bring that character to life, and it was a really award-worthy performance. But yeah, again, I'm kind of like, what's the next thing you got? Like I'm ready for her to get an award one of these days too, if it's not this year. Yeah, but Mikey Madison, really, really great. I just watched Better Things on FX too, and that is that was like her first role. And did not realize that's kind of what got her, like Scream and Once Upon a Time and all that. And so it's just watching her kind of like skyrocket to the top and get this role is sort of like, man, she's also got the goods and she's doing a lot in this movie. I think just beyond being, yelly, kind of like, what the fuck is going on here? But yeah, I mean, for Demi, how can you not be happy for her, especially after all the shit that you understand that character is going through in the movie and how it represents so much of even her own career trajectory and just like the type of shit she's probably had to deal with for a long time. I don't know. I sort of feel like just if it's not going to happen for her, like at least they recognize that this was her leaving it out on the floor. It's not a movie for everybody.
Right, and that's another reason why I'm excited by it being like a body horror movie and it's getting like all this acclaim. I love that.
Yeah. I'll talk a little about Fernanda Torres then, and I'm Still Here, because that is an award-worthy performance. I mean, or at least a nomination-worthy performance. It was really difficult what she had to go through in that movie. Very difficult subject matter, I should say. Also based on a true story, which I did not know going into the movie, but a lot of movies based on a true story this year. It's just interesting. But she's doing a lot with a little. Like, she has to show restraint because that's what the character is doing. But you kind of see the pain behind her eyes as she's going through a very traumatic episode. And unfortunately, I'm Still Here is not a cheery movie. but it is a very important movie that a lot of people should see, and because it's a lot about like living through a fascist regime and how you could deal with like military and
Doesn't seem very topical.
I know, not at all. But it is a very a very good movie, and she puts in an awesome performance that I kind of understood why people were like, yeah, if she comes in and swoops up the award like come the big night, it's like I don't know that anybody's gonna be shocked because it really was good, but everybody's good in this category. Anyway, so like talk about your favorites of the year.
Well, I have one that's not on the list.
Okay, let's hear it.
I have Nell Tiger Free in The First Omen.
Oh,
I'm just giving it to her for her like contortionist body birthing of the devil outside the church.
yeah.
Just watch that and tell me that doesn't deserve a little bit of a head shake. And she's just good through the whole thing.
She is good. I will say that movie surprised me. I don't have it super. It was one of my favorites of the year, but like, I mean, not like my top 10, but I was very surprised just by that. And I thought that she had presence in that movie, and she really was encapsulating to watch.
It's another movie that's similar to
captivating, not encapsulating.
It's another movie that I kind of saw similar to The Brutalist, kind of capturing that like 70s style of film. It feels very almost like a Coppola movie.
Yeah, it's almost like The Holdovers, how they kind of started that whole thing with his getting like that fuzz on the screen.
Yeah. I've got The First Omen It's number 8, but that doesn't make sense. It should be number 9. I should have Dune 2 above it, but it's right there, right at the back end of my 10.
That's still a pretty solid spot. I mean,
snug between Dune and A Complete Unknown.
Ooh, I can't wait to hear what your top 10 are for the whole way through. The only other performances I would call out, I mean, Zendaya again putting in 2 pretty good performances in 2 separate movies.
Ah, crap. I had her in supporting, which would have been tricky because I just feel she is kind of this, even though she's got equal screen time. I was going to say I had her for supporting.
And which one? Challengers or Dune?
Challengers.
Okay. That's where I was kind of stuck too. I was like, is she a lead performance in Challengers?
If she would have been nominated, she would have been in lead, I bet.
Okay.
But for me, I feel she's like the most in it, but she's like supporting it the whole time.
Yeah, but she is in like so much in the movie too. Yeah, that's a tough one, but it's a performance that's worth mentioning.
Yes.
Either way. The other one, I'm going to throw out another horror movie, Fred. I'm going to throw out Naomi Scott and Smile 2.
Ooh.
And this is not the last time Smile 2 is going to come up because there's another part of that movie that's very good and deserves mentioning, but it's a technical thing.
Mm.
But I thought that she was doing a lot of heavy lifting that, again, when you get cast as, I feel like a scream queen, right? In these movies, and I think you kind of just talked about it with, was it Nell Tiger Free?
Yes.
Like, you're not being asked to just scream at a camera and show fear the whole time. You have to kind of have a semblance of, like, you're going through emotions. And I thought that in a movie with a ridiculous premise like Smile, like, you have to try and pretend that, like, something weird is happening. And I was sort of like, I think she was really showing the meltdown of a pop star very well and going through it with her. Did you see that movie?
Yes, I did. I thought she was great. I liked the direction of the film. I thought the plot was a little bit retready for me of the first, but
Yeah.
I still thought, like, again, I want to see what everyone does next from this movie, especially the like creative team behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought they brought the heat a little bit, but definitely looking forward to seeing what they do next. But I thought she presented it in enough of a way that it was sort of like, it would have been almost a cool twist to be like, none of this is happening to her. She's just heard about this. She thinks this is all happening. And like, actually, she is just having a nervous breakdown because she sold it very well. Of like, why everyone would be like, you belong in a hospital, not, like, oh, we should believe that you're going through this like crazy, like scary episode of like monster trying to get you. So, what was your pick for who should win and who will win?
So I went with Debbie Moore just because I want her to have one of these nice statues, and I want her to be represented in the Oscars. And I just thought it was a great performance.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. So you think should win, will win?
That's my should win. You got, like you said, with the SAG, I think it's a 50-50 now with Mikey Madison. Demi. Maybe like a 60-40. I'm still leaning more towards Demi.
Yeah.
But it's not as slam dunk like it has been.
I kind of am with you though on should win. I think split it between Demi Moore, Mikey Madison. It's a coin flip. I think I'll be happy with either of them. And I think they both deserved it. And I think whoever will win is going to be from those two and probably also deserves it. Fernando Torres also is worth mentioning, I think, as a potential for an upset. But I don't know that I see it happening now, just based on how things have been going. But either way, it's a great year for lead performances there. Fred, let's continue all along the Watchtower here. I took a couple minutes to think about that one. It was sitting in my noodle. Let's talk about best director or best directing. I don't know. They just have directing listed as a category. Anyway, the nominees are Sean Baker for Anora, Brady Corbett for The Brutalist, James Mangold for A Complete Unknown. Oh, I didn't even know that one. Jacques Audiard.
That was closer the second time. I don't know it, but I've heard it, and that's what it sounds like.
For Amelia Perez and Coralie Farge for The Substance. What were your thoughts on this category?
Well, I think you can cut two of them out pretty quick.
What were those?
I think James Mangold doesn't need a directing thing. Just because he made a biopic that worked doesn't mean you get best directing. I don't know. I don't really. My man he's a journeyman. He puts the camera down. He gets the shots. Everyone goes home in time. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't really see something where I was like, ooh, but also I always worry about with myself because I'm not like a trained film person, whether I always want to just nominate the most directing.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's a good point. I will say, though, the movie is very watchable. Yes. I was surprised how watchable that is because I'm not a huge Bob Dylan fan, but I came out of that movie through that movie. I was having fun. I was eating popcorn. I was really enjoying it. But I also agree. Compared to some of these other categories, let's focus on some of the other people who really put in some work here. Who was the other one you wanted to knock out?
Amelia Perez.
And I know we did not talk about Carla Sofia Garzón in the last category either. And just to address that is a lot of controversy about some very not great opinions from her. So I kind of think she's just, in my mind, disqualified in that. Like, she's not going to win. And it was really difficult to kind of separate that performance so close after. Just like, I don't know. It's just bad to hear that kind of prejudice.
I just feel also Zoe Saldana. I agree with you, but I also feel Zoe Saldana blew her off the water. Off the water?
Out of the water. Yeah.
Onto the water.
Out of the water.
Out of the water.
Out of
onto
the
the pier. I don't know. Out of the water.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't bring it up, just because the reasons you said, and also I didn't think, like, I wasn't like, man, that performance was so good. It's a shame about all that. I didn't have that feeling once.
Yeah. Definitely not. And the movie itself is not so brilliantly shot that this deserved a directing nod. I am, again, I don't know when we really want to dive into this, but all the nominations this movie got are baffling to me after watching it.
Yep.
It seemed like it's a lot of French film that tried to translate to a lot of things that it just didn't feel right. I don't know. Or it just didn't work. Like, that's the end of it. Like,
correct. Didn't have songs that were that good, and it didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about the other three then.
Well, I think Sean Baker, I really liked how Nora felt like a Safdie Brothers movie, but with his kind of tone
Mhm.
applied to it. There was definitely, it wasn't pure Safdies. There was definitely, I could feel like Florida Project in there. I could feel Red Rocket in there with like, it's a different type of energy, but there is a very similar kinetic, fast, anxiety inducing feeling to it. Especially compared to Red Rocket.
Yeah.
Um,
Movie I've not seen yet.
it's an uncomfortable one, but it's a good one. Yeah. It's got like the guy from Scary Movie 3 and like the lead from that, and he's a guy that's been a bunch of stuff, but he comes in swinging. I think did he end up getting nominated for that? I think he did.
Simon Rex.
Simon Rex.
I don't know that he got nominated for it, but I know he was very good. He just showed up in Mo, the show on Netflix, season 2, and
So nice.
I'm kind of excited to see that guy in more stuff now. He's pretty entertaining.
He's got the goods. I mean, I feel this category is perfect for The Brutalist because I think this is the one that had the most directing to the point that it was, I would say it wasn't distracting, but it was really leaning into kind of styles of film and kind of pulling from, like I said before, a lot of 70s stuff, like Coppola. I'd even say there's a little bit of I just watched Once Upon a Time in America, the Sergio Leone film, the non-Western movies of his. I felt there was a lot there, especially like in the scenes in Italy.
Mhm.
And then The Substance, I mean, I think it's a really well-made horror movie, but I didn't come out of it like thinking about the directing that much. I was thinking about the script, which was kind of a great mishmash of like Black Mirror, body horror, all these things that I love, and kind of like 80s aesthetic, even though it's like supposed to be, you know, future around now time. There was a very 80s vibe to that movie. So I appreciated that award. Like I said, I love the horror movies, but to me, it really comes down to, how do you feel?
Yeah. Yes. All of what you just said. I think you calling out Brady Corbett as, that's in my mind the directing nomination among this crop, and that's nothing to shake a fist at Anora or The Substance. It's just you can see his choices being made on the screen. For whatever you have to say about The Brutalist, which I think there's a lot of fair criticism about the movie, there's a lot of clear choices being made. There's a very clear vision that he wanted out there. Whether the script entirely works, I don't know, but he still threads the needle very well to make a very watchable movie, and one you never feel the length as much as people will complain about the length. I didn't feel it.
No, I didn't feel it at all. The example of this being a good directing nomination is there's just a scene where someone pours water over marble, and it's great.
It is.
I'm loving it. Give me more Marble Guy.
And I don't know. And I listened to a lot of the directors on directors interviews this year, and Sean Baker interviewed Brady Corbett. I mean, it's vice versa. They interviewed each other.
Right.
But it was so good to hear them talk about their movies. I had already seen Anora, but I hadn't seen The Brutalist yet. So then watching The Brutalist after that conversation, I think made me appreciate what he was trying to do a lot more. And I think it made a lot of things sing, and you could see a lot of the references to old cinema. And there was obviously an actual intermission, which freaking ruled, and you almost deserve a directing nomination for putting in the choice of like, I want an actual 15-minute intermission for a 3.5-hour movie. It's like, thank you. We've all been asking for this for years, and you didn't even give the theaters a choice. You just told them this is what's happening. So
Yes.
very much appreciated that. And I don't know. I just thought that, you can't short it out by saying, oh no, Substance and Anora didn't deserve it. I thought The Substance was really well shot. Very excited. Again, that's kind of been like the theme of our thing of like, I'm excited to see what she does next.
Yes.
But I thought this was an awesome first effort. It was a body horror movie that didn't feel like it was owing everything back to what's his name? Mr. Body Horror.
Cronenberg.
Yeah, like I love that I watched a body horror movie that I didn't feel like was obviously a Cronenberg homage. It felt like it's very much its own thing. Like it reminded me more of Titan than it did of, which was another French body horror movie. But I appreciated that it did more of that, and it had more of its own flavor. And I don't know. I just really love like you said, that 80s vibe to it. So I think you can certainly talk about them all, but I think Corbett was doing some work. And who are some other directors you want to talk about this year? Because I have two.
I have Ramel Ross, who did the Nickel Boys.
Ooh, okay. Talk about that.
I guess maybe there was a little hold up with this because of the film style. I wonder if they're like, well, the actors are holding the cameras, which was the whole thing behind it. They got trained on how to work cameras. I know that's not what the director does. He doesn't hold the camera.
Right.
But I'm saying, like, I could see some people kind of seeing the movie and like questioning whether to give it a direction award, but it should definitely win a direction award or at least be nominated. I'm really excited for you to check it out.
Yeah, me too.
I think using the perspectives of the characters and the flipping back and forth, deciding how to shoot the locations, because it's like this mix of harrowing and beauty at the same time. It has these great shots of the South, which I think is kind of like the history is harrowing, and also there's beauty in the area. You know, there's a reason why people want to live in the South, even with all the like history and current day bigotry and everything that goes on there.
Right.
There's something that draws people there, and I think the movie plays in both lanes. And can I say not a plot spoil, just a milder visual spoil? There's at least 2 gators in this film.
Oh,
At least.
what?
And when I saw that gator, I was like, I'm adding a little award for this film.
Best gators in a movie.
And my other one, purely direction. I thought this would be a fun movie for a nomination. I'm excited to see his current film in theater. I like long legs. I thought if you were to rewatch it without the what the fuckery behind it, the movie is shot really well, and it's very interesting, and the camera's pointed at everything for a reason in that movie.
I'll give you that. I didn't love Long Legs as much as I think I wanted to. I think I had a little too much hype going into it, but I definitely do agree, though, that it was at least interestingly shot. And that's credit to, I can't think of the director's name right now.
Osgood Perkins, the son of Anthony Perkins, the Psycho guy.
Oh, my God. Now that I've seen a picture of him, that's 100%
They look the same.
Yeah, the same.
Yes.
Isn't he in like Legally Blonde or something like that?
I believe he acted. He's kind of like the Tar guy.
Yeah.
So, where he's like in stuff.
Okay. The Tar guy. I love that.
I also love with this year that, you know, we had Tar a while back that like, is it Leo Toth? People are kind of doing like Toth jokes, like as he's a real person. Like Tar is, and I'm kind of here for it.
It's pretty great, actually. We should have more movies where you can't tell if somebody is the real person, especially when we do actually have like a biopic and then movies based on like reality, like Sing Sing and I'm Still Here. I'm going to call out the 2 very obvious ones, Fred, because they're worth mentioning. It's Denis Villeneuve. I mean, obviously, Dune 2 is it's a masterpiece. I don't know. I don't know how you go any further than that. And the M word gets thrown around so much, but it's so good. We're going to look back at part 1 and part 2 and people will be like, this is one of the best sci-fi franchises or movies like ever made. Like, it's just so well done. It's so beautiful to look at, especially the direction of those movies. In that movie, that last part 2 is just like the color is so vibrant. All the choices he's making are great. And then it's Luca Guadagnino, a guy who got directed 2 movies this year that both got very well received and got nominated for neither. And I'm just like, okay, Challengers probably should have been the one, but also Queer was like another one that people really liked.
He kind of did like a Yorgos thing where he had like kind of a bigger movie and then a smaller movie that had like more mixed reviews.
Yeah.
If you really want to check out Queer, I think it's coming to Max. But it didn't get as acclaimed as Challengers,
Right.
which I think was kind of like the Yorgos having Poor Things and Kinds of Kindness, which I still haven't watched yet.
Me either. Which I know I need to see Queer and Kinds of Kindness. So that'll probably be like
double
a double
feature,
feature.
yeah.
Exactly. Making that happen. But for Challengers, at least.
That I don't get. And like, I guess because it didn't get enough nominations. I keep forgetting, like, yeah, the directing that is great.
It is. The whole final tennis match, and like, man, even if you're not a tennis fan, you're like into it. Like, you almost like want to stand up with Zendaya and be like, come on.
Yeah, I almost unpacked my Wii and brought out the Wii tennis, turn on some 90s techno club music, and I would go to town.
Yeah. So who should and who will?
I think Brady Corbet should win,
Okay.
and I think he will win. I think they will give it to him for this.
Yes. And I think the one reason why is because I think Honora might take away the top prize.
Yeah,
There's that possibility.
Kind of what I'm leaning towards.
I know we're kind of showing our hand a little bit for the best picture, but I think it's important to understand that context, because it's like, if you're not going to win best picture, typically that's when you get the directing nod, right? Like, and I think, because otherwise, if Sean Baker wins, it's very possible that could happen.
And I'd be happy with it.
Me too.
That's what's also this year. There's like one or two choices that have a good chance of being picked, and I'm not going to be like upset.
Yeah. Let's talk very quickly about documentaries. I could not commit myself to watching documentaries this year. Reason being, not because there weren't brilliant achievements in documentary filmmaking. The world's a very sad place right now. And to see sad topics, like I believe the topics of these films, and I'll name them here just so at least everyone understands what they are. Black Box Diaries, No Other Land, Porcelain War, Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat, and Sugarcane. It's a lot of subjects about like rape and like investigating rape cases, the Israel-Palestine war, the Russia-Ukraine war. Very important topics. Everybody should probably check these movies out at some point. I could not bring myself to do it in the crunch time that I needed to for now, and mostly just because I was so bummed out reading all these descriptions.
That's how I feel. And also, generally, there's a easier accessibility. Whereas when I say accessibility, like most of these were available for rent. A lot of times the docs sneak into the streamers like right before the awards. And that's generally when I jump on, because I enjoy a documentary, especially if it's a great documentary. I want to see it, but I don't jump to watch all the docs. Like, I don't generally watch all the short films. I don't watch all the animated short films.
Yeah.
It's not that I wouldn't be interested in. It's just more of a money and time thing.
Yeah, the one that we did find on streaming right away was Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat. I watched it with my wife, or we started watching it. We did not finish it. It is a very interesting topic. It's a lot about just like following events of like jazz's influence in Africa in the 60s, and following literally like a government like tumultuousness going on there, and like this like kind of Cold War tug of war that was happening with Russia. The problem with this documentary that I found trying to watch it is that it tried to do this very deep homage to jazz while also doing a documentary feature. So you're trying to track down what the story is and what the story is they're trying to present to you, as they're sort of scattershotting it at you like a jazz piece.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of jumping from thing to thing. It drops a lot of information. It drops a lot of screenshots and tells you like all about these jazz artists, and you get these sound clips from like that. Then you jump to like this like representative from Russia. And it got to the point where it just like after an hour, I'm like, I really don't even know what's happening right now. And I'm like, I understand this is a very artistic piece, and it's very well done in what it tried to do, but it is very difficult to follow. And I think that's a very difficult thing about it, just trying to follow it from sit down, watch, not being actively watching it. In a theater, it might be a different experience. At home, I think it's tough. So did not finish it. Seemed interesting. Would love to learn more about the topic, but yeah, couldn't finish it.
Look, we're not giving screeners, people. If you want to send us screeners, we'll watch them. I paid $30 to watch Sing Sing and Nickel Boys, and that was my ceiling for you people.
Yeah, Fred put his own hard-earned money on the line to get in there.
It's kind of a pattern now. I own one movie from each year since the last 2 years we've done this, I own Zone of Interest because I couldn't get it and I couldn't get to the theater, and now I own Nickel Boys.
Which maybe I think at least the latter one you'll probably be happy to have.
I actually been thinking about getting back into Zone of Interest. I really liked that movie for as dark as it is.
Yeah, it's a very dark movie, but it is good. But yeah, no, I mean, to just put a pin in that, everyone should still go check out the documentaries. So I have no predictions on any of that, but I'm sure the right film will win.
Yes.
I'm sure something touched somebody. Let's talk about animated movies, a little happier topic.
Yeah.
So the nominees were Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and The Wild Robot. What were your thoughts? Did you catch all of these first
I
and
saw
foremost?
3 of them. I saw Flow, I saw Inside Out, and I saw The Wild Robot. I was going to watch the Wallace and Gromit movie, but I realized I had never seen Curse of the Were-Rabbit.
Oh.
So I threw that on, and then I never got to the new one.
Oh, no.
Which I will watch because I do enjoy some Wallace and Gromit.
Oh, yeah. They're the best.
Mhm.
Yeah. I watched them all. And all of them are, they're all good. I think if I had one that I think is sort of that we probably should nominate it, it might be Inside Out 2.
We should?
I mean, like, that's kind of how I'm like, if I'm the Oscars, I'm looking at the movies, they're like, I suppose we have to nominate it.
Oh, I
Out
get
2.
you. I thought you were saying that you and I had to. I was like, I don't think we do.
No. I appreciate that they wanted to tell another story. I don't know that this movie needed to happen.
No, and Inside Out is that's a big movie for me. I love it so much. Like that's one that I can always it'll always break me down to. I'll throw it on. It's a great bedtime movie for
Yeah.
me. Like I love the Giacchino score. Yeah, 2 was just a little too much going on. I was
Not everything worked, I don't think.
No, and like it was too much, not enough on the emotions. Even though there's a lot of emotions happening, it was very focused on like the shoe leather of emotionality, which is not as
Yeah.
interesting to me.
Yeah, I agree. But I did think the other nominees were very good. And to be honest, I couldn't really rack my brain for another animated movie outside of these nominees this year. I think it was kind of a weak year for animation.
Yeah, once I heard that the War of Reforium was like kind of crappy, I didn't even bother. I heard it was kind of like a cash grab.
That's too bad,
I was
too.
pretty excited. I was like pitching us all go see that in theater too.
Yeah, I
I
know.
was ready for it, and then I started reading reviews because I'll read a review before I see a movie, and I was like, I think I'll maybe watch this when it's on Max. It's coming soon, but yeah, I'm wrapping my head for animated movies. There's none on my 50 movies I watched this year.
Yeah.
2024 releases.
No, I don't think there was anything. But I think the picks that they got overall are great. And I think they're very, very good movies, very well done. Flow is awesome. I mean, it's such a really artistically well done movie. You get emotionally invested really quickly out the gate. I would say the same thing about The Wild Robot too. I watched that on a plane to Japan.
Yeah, I was hoping because you're on the plane. They say you're more emotionally vulnerable when watching stuff. Did you feel like you were getting swelled up into the story more?
Maybe a little bit. I think the whole like father or mother and son thing kind of hit a little bit harder too, just because it's just I don't know. It's a very nice movie, and I think the performances were very good. It's just I think my problem was I saw this got nominated for best musical score, and I don't feel like the music you could hear anything on the plane that well. So because you're fighting like all the white noise and all the engine noise, so it's like
People farting.
yeah, exactly. It might have been me.
That's the best part about an airplane. You never know.
But I thought the movie was really well put together. It was just a surprise. I was just like, whoa, this actually has like a lot of emotion to it. And it's about the family you choose versus the family that you're born with. And I always love stories like that.
Yeah, I would say it really comes down because I didn't see, and I want to hear your thoughts about the Wallace and Gromit. For me, it was really just Flo and the Wild Robot since I only saw Inside Out 2
Yeah.
of those. And I feel like they're kind of in some ways similar, but very different. Flo and the Wild Robot. Flo, for me, I'm like, this is gorgeous. It's definitely like kind of has this dark yet whimsical feel to it. It's kind of it's light on plot. There's a lot of events happening, but it's kind of you're just watching this kind of flow, if you will, of this cat. The Wild Robot for me though has some of those things. It looks amazing. But it also just kind of felt like a slightly less commercial Pixar movie. And that's why I liked it. It hit Pixar notes. It gave me those good feelings, but it also just didn't have that, I don't know, unnecessary Disney sheen to it.
Yeah, that's a good point. It was like kind of, I don't know. It reminded me a little bit, and not at all like that movie, but I just think in the vibe that it was going for, kind of reminded me of Mitchell's versus the Machines, which was an animated movie I really liked that was nominated a few years ago.
Animation definitely has similar vibes to it as well. I think.
Yeah, but just sort of like that same thing you just said, like a Pixar movie without the Disney sheen, and it just felt like it resonated a lot more in that regard. And I don't know. And Flo is just, it's beautiful. It also got nominated for Best International Feature Film, which is surprising, but also well deserved. I'll speak to Wallace and Gromit a little bit too. Well, first I'll get Memoir of the Snail out of the way because I don't have a ton to say. The movie's kind of sad. In fact, it's very sad. There's a lot of, it's just kind of all heartbreak a lot throughout the movie, which was a bummer because I was just talking about how much it is a bummer, and there's a lot of bummer movies this year, but it is really well done. It's kind of done in that like almost like that Tim Burton animation style that seems like it's like stop motion, but it's like claymation almost.
Yeah.
But it was a very, very good story, and it was just a very heartwarming story. It really touches your heart, I should say. As much as you're seeing the characters go through a lot of pain and heartbreak and stuff, it's still just really well done and kind of makes you think about, I don't know, just enjoying the things in life and living your life to the fullest when you have the opportunity to do so. Wallace and Gromit's just pure British joy. If you've ever seen a Wallace and Gromit movie,
I figured it was more of the same. That's good.
it is very much a Wallace and Gromit movie. That is, if you've seen a Wallace and Gromit movie, if you've seen a what's the studio called again?
I don't know.
Aardman.
That sounds right.
Yeah, I mean, like it's that style. It's incredibly British humor. There's a silly gnome character in it that has a wonderful Scottish accent, and he's just extra as hell, but super funny.
Is it David Tennant?
It's not Tennant, but it should have been. But yeah, it's so fun. If you have not seen another Wallace and Gromit movie, the one prerequisite is you do need to see, I think it is The Wrong Trousers, because it's technically a sequel to that one.
Oh, okay.
And I did not know that coming in, because I recognized the character that was a other character in the movie from that one, but I didn't realize at the same time. I was like, oh, this is a direct continuation of that story. So yes, important to know, and it's still great. Nick Park does some fun stuff. Wallace and Gromit is very wholesome. So who should win? Who will win?
I think it's a toss-up between Flo and the Wild Robot. I think it might actually be Flo more than the Wild Robot.
Yeah.
But I would like it to be Wild Robot because I think it's almost harder to make a 4-quadrant animated movie, and Flo is not that.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. And I don't know. I could also make the argument for why I think Flo should win too. But I do think Wild Robot had the most, felt like they put a lot of heart into it, where Flo is just a great piece of art. And you certainly feel some of the emotion, but not in the same level of the Wild Robot, where it really is trying to tug at your heartstrings. And I think you can tell there was a lot of thought into each of the characters that were presented on screen. And even bringing Matt Berry in, I mean, that deserves its own little nod to give him a voice acting role. So,
though Pedro Pascal wasn't cooking as much for me in that movie, I'll say. And I think the reason is because we have such a better Sly Fox performance from Jason Bateman in Zootopia.
Oh,
Played
yeah.
the same type of character, but like way better.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I love Pedro Pascal, but that was like maybe like the weakest part for me was actually him.
I do agree with that. Although I thought the who played the main role again? Was
Lupita Nyong'o.
Yeah, she was. I thought great. I think she does a lot of amazing work with voice acting.
Someone I didn't mention, but was really good in I was gonna say 28 Days Later, but what's the Krasinski? Don't make a sound. We can't hear you.
Quiet Place.
Quiet
Day
Place,
one.
Day one. I thought she was really great in that too.
Sure. Yeah, her and Joseph Quinn.
Yes.
Which I thought it was kind of weird to see him in that movie, and then you get a grand one like Gladiator 2, and I was like, he's fine. He was doing more in Quiet Place, and I thought he was very good in that. And so was she. She was really, really good. That movie was surprisingly good.
Yeah, I dug it.
A lot of horror like prequel sequels this year that you're just sort of like, all right, I'll pop this on. You're like, oh, someone has like something to say here. They got something to show. Horror's just doing great work. It's hard not to give anything to that.
We did miss someone for supporting actor.
Uh-oh. Who's that?
Oh, I'm in Gladiator times, and I got something to tell you.
Oh, man. And that's an upset, too, that Denzel didn't get nominated.
Yeah, because I think Gladiator 2 is like a 6, that he makes that like a 7.5.
Yes.
Like that's
Definitely.
right.
Definitely.
Like I don't think I would have dug Gladiator 2, but I really dug it. It's not like an 8 or a 9 or a 10, but it's like almost, it's like in between a 7 and 8 because of him.
Yeah. He is, I mean, he's just chewing the scenery like no other. I'm shocked he didn't get nominated.
For sure.
Especially, I'm trying to remember who got nominated for best or supporting, but I know we talked about it already. It's hard to find a place for him. I would have maybe, oh, God. Yeah, who would you have booted? Strong?
I would have put Edward Norton.
Yeah, maybe. We got 3 categories left. Let's talk about best original score. The nominees are The Brutalist, which is Daniel Bloomberg. Conclave, which is, oh God, why did I do this to myself? Volker Bertelmann, Amelia Perez, Clement Ducot, and Camille. Wicked, John Powell and Steven Schwartz. And The Wild Robot, Chris Bowers. What were the scores here that stood out to you?
Really of this list, it would probably be The Wild Robot and The Brutalist. I don't really remember the music from anything. I think the Wicked nomination is kind of lame. Just because they like that touched it up a little bit. You can give it best adapted musical score.
Yeah, but like that's hard because it's like the music is good, but yeah, are people remembering the music that wasn't the actual like already composed Broadway songs?
I don't know. There's such a template there to pull like stings from and stuff and work in.
It feels a little cheap. Yeah, I agree though. But yeah, The Brutalist, it's a pretty fantastic soundtrack. I think you're right. Conclave is kind of that classic Hollywood score. I was listening to it a little bit today and I was like, oh, it's got stuff. I didn't love the music from Amelia Perez. And I'm like,
No.
again, I'd hate to keep crapping on the movie even for like something that you think should be a slam dunk, but I wasn't digging the music as much. Yeah. But yeah, The Brutalist was good. The Wild Robot, like I said, I wish I had heard the music a little bit better, so I'll take your word for it.
I more hear it when there's like ads for it winning the awards. It plays the score a lot. And
Yeah.
that's where I've been hearing it more than anything.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think we're here for one thing that's not on the list.
Name it.
It's the Challenger score.
Yeah.
Hands down, should have won the best.
Because who was the one that did that score?
Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross.
It was, right? And I'm like, I was trying to confirm that was them, but God, that soundtrack was so good.
That was my music to the summer. Pulling out of work, throwing on my shades, and listening to that.
Yeah. It was pretty good. I mean, you can't. I am like, why did we need to squeeze in like Conclave or something like that when like that score was bumping? At least to give it something.
That was the one award that I was like, I mean, not fine. I was a little weirded out that it didn't win anything else, but that's all I really wanted it to be nominated and win for.
Yeah, absolutely. The other one I'll throw out there was Hundreds of Beavers because it kind of is very reliant on music, and the music is very catchy in that, and it's very capturing the silent film era. The movie's very good. It's such a brilliant accomplishment. I'll talk about it in a couple categories, but the music really, really does make it, and it really brings you along where you sort of feel like you're in that ride, and you almost want to see it with an organ live, just so you can kind of get that full experience.
I'm gonna come with all my organs.
You better. Otherwise, you're gonna really have a bad time.
I might leave my bladder because what if I have to go to the bathroom?
I have two, Fred, that I'm also gonna mention here that deserve kind of a nod because I was very surprised. I don't know if this really counts for this category or if it should be like original song or whatever. Smile 2 and Trap. The music was kind of banging in those movies.
Mm-hmm. I like the idea of like they should have nominated a song from Trap for like best original song.
Honestly, I am so impressed with two movies where it was like following like a pop star and you're like, oh, you have to believe that she's a real pop star. And the songs sound like legit, like top 100 level songs. And you're like, oh, they got somebody who knows what the fuck they're doing. And they wrote like a song that I'm like, I kind of want to look up the soundtrack now and be like, yeah, this could be in a club or something.
Yeah, Tom and I will be at the next Lady Raven show.
Hell yeah. I don't know about the performance of Lady Raven, but I thought the music was very well done. Brutalist, is that who will win, should win? I mean, listen, who should win is the Challenger soundtrack. It should be Reznor and Ross, but
I think it'll be the Brutalist because it's such an old Hollywood, like big horn, big music score.
But when you hear the music too, it even just sort of evokes all the things you want. And I love that little like 80s like overlude or whatever at the last sound track. And I'm like, okay, this Bloomberg was kind of in his own pocket doing this.
Yep, and I know this is more of like soundtrack, but like the One for You and the One for Me song at the very end is all just, it's icing on the cake.
It is. It's great. Let's get into one kind of untraditional topic here before we get to our Best Picture nominations, and that is, what is a movie or movies that you saw last year that are not from last year that you really want to shout out?
I did not have a chance to put this together, but I do have my letterbox of all my movies in 2024 organized. So if you want to go first.
Yep, I got two. One is, I'm going to really play the snob card here. It was called May and the Kitten Bus. It is a short film spin-off or sequel to My Neighbor Totoro that you can only see at Ghibli Park in Japan. And we got a ticket, and there's 10 different short films that they show, and we very fortunately got the My Neighbor Totoro one, and it was really good. It came out in like 2003, so it almost came out 15 years, I think, after My Neighbor Totoro came out. But Ghibli Park is super cool. I'm going to say very quickly on that. But yeah, there's obviously a little theater where you can watch short films in there. And so we grab this ticket, and then you sit down. You have no idea what you're about to watch. And then they bring it on, and you're like, oh my God. And then you read up on it afterward, and it's like, yeah, it's not available on YouTube or anywhere else. This is the only place you can see it. So that was kind of cool.
Exclusive.
Very exclusive. And I kind of cheated because I think I actually technically watched that last month. But either way, it was something that's worth calling out. And then the other one, because he just passed away last month too, David Lynch, and that's The Elephant Man. I had never seen that until last year. Watched it to go along with a podcast series I was listening to. And I was in tears at the end of that movie. That was so good. I was shocked that a movie about like that topic could be so like emotionally touching and dramatic, and I don't know. I was blown away. That shot up to the top of my David Lynch movies. So I'm getting verklempt thinking about it.
Yeah, I guess because preparing for Twin Peaks episode, I think I can definitely do a cap for my year, like just all of David Lynch's movies that I watched. I still haven't gotten to see Wild at Heart. I'm working on getting a copy from someone.
Let me know when you do. I want to see that.
For sure. I'm going to try to get that. I'm looking up the movie because I guess I didn't save it, but I know it. Okay, so here's a couple that I watched because, I love to go back and fill in, gaps. Movie that I always was curious about that I finally watched was Deep Cover.
Oh.
And it was directed by Bill Duke. And Bill Duke is the, I think he's the one black guy from Predator.
No.
There's
Not
two.
the old, yeah,
Well,
Carl
no,
Weathers.
not counting Carl Weathers.
Yeah.
Like, I'm saying like the one side cast.
Yeah. I was like, there's two black guys in that movie.
The one that gets killed.
Yes. Well, don't they both die?
Yeah, but like that's towards the end. I'm saying the one that gets killed.
Calling your ass out of here, Fred. Putting you on. I know Bill Duke, though. He's the non-Carl Weathers.
Yes, the non-Carl Weathers. That's the way to say it. And then I have one more. It's at the top of this list right here because it was towards the end of the year.
Yes. Fred's really digging
Close
deep.
Encounters of the Third Kind.
Oh, wow.
What a nice movie. I quite enjoyed it.
Man.
Beep, boop, boop.
You have never seen that before then, no, huh?
I have not.
Wow. That's pretty crazy. What'd you think of it?
I liked it a lot. It's definitely, I thought it was a visual feast. I loved the kind of matte painting look to it of like the farmhouse stuff in the beginning. And I remember trying to watch when I was younger and it was just too slow for me. And I knew I was at the right age for kind of a like slower paced film.
Yeah. Man, I think I watched that in college for a class. And I remember being pretty blown away that I got to watch it on a big screen. So that was a pretty cool experience for it. But you don't realize how often that movie is referenced for a movie that a lot of people, I think, maybe in our generation haven't seen it.
Right.
So it's a great call out, though.
But I do recommend checking out Deep Cover with Lawrence Fishburne. It is just like 80s, 90s, like right at the kind of tail of the 80s, going in the 90s, like dark action film with him and Jeff Goldblum. But it's like not our like, oh, Jeff Goldblum. It's very serious Jeff Goldblum. It kind of blew me away of just being such a tight movie. And I didn't know Bill Duke was a director and he has got quite a few films.
Sure. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that I have not seen it, though. And I just love that Bill Duke directed it because he just seems like a cool dude.
Yes, I would like to hang out with Bill Duke if he's still with us.
I think he might have passed away recently, but I'll double check that.
Is Bill Duke still alive?
I think that gets us, though, Fred, to the end. No, Bill Duke is alive.
I did see the 1988 The Blob, which everyone says is pretty good, and I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I've never seen either of the Blobs. So
this is the only I haven't seen the old one, but I saw this one, and I was like, oh, good. Good.
Very solid. I mean, any classic creature feature. For me, it's Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the remake.
The 70s one.
Yeah, with Donald Sutherland.
Yeah, that's the one. I heard an interview about that film. The thing that's cool about that movie, if you watch it from a sound perspective, it starts with all this audio, and as things happen, it strips away the audio slowly until like it's dead quiet, and that's when the invasion is complete.
Oh, wow.
So that's a fun way to rewatch it, is to pay attention to the sound.
I definitely need to. I like that movie a lot.
So good.
It's really, really good. Let's talk about Best Picture, though. So the nominees this year are Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked. So we already said that Fred has not seen I'm Still Here. I have not seen Nickel Boys, so we can kind of keep each other honest. What are your thoughts on the 9 you have seen, though?
Like I said, I like all these 9 films. I was surprised how many actually made it into like my top 10, top 15.
Same.
I feel usually it's like a few. last year might have been an exception because it was like a Nolan and a Marty year. So that's a big deal in my house. Oh, and a Fincher year. Having those three guys come out with a film in the same year was almost illegal.
Yeah.
So of course this year was going to be tough for me. But
Well, why don't you give us your full top 10 and then we can kind of hit your favorites of the year from the nominees along with your favorites overall. Like, what were your top 10?
let me pull up my list. So what I did all this year was I just sort of on my letterbox, anytime I watched a 2024 film, I added it to my 2024 list.
Nice.
And I ranked it while I watched. So they don't number them, so I got to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. So my honorable mention, just because I didn't talk about it, is my 11 is In a Violent Nature. This is the movie I told you about. That's like a Gus Van Sant horror film.
Yeah.
Where it's literally just like the perspective, very much like Nickel Boys. It's from the perspective of a killer. That's the part that's not like Nickel Boys, but it's just like the shot of the back of the head following this guy through the forest doing some messed up stuff, but it is like one of the most gorgeously shot movies ever. I really recommend it. Even like if you could watch The Substance, you can handle In a Violent Nature easily because it's gory, but it's not as gross.
I think I have it on my watch list on Letterboxd.
Hell yeah.
I will get to it at some point.
Then I'll go through these quickly unless we feel we need to step on it. So starting with 10 is A Complete Unknown, First Omen, Dune 2, Anora. Here's the one that we didn't talk too much about, Nosferatu. Which was pretty low for what I expected for me being such an Eggers guy. I liked it a lot, but it is, it's a very familiar story.
Still haven't seen it yet.
Oh, it's on Peacock right now.
I know. I got to find a night where I can watch it on my own.
Well, I'm going to watch that, and then I'm going to watch my Bram Stoker's Dracula that I got on 4K Steelbook as a nice double feature.
Nice.
Then A Real Pain. This is the top 5. The Substance. The Brutalist. This may be recent bias, but I really feel good about Nickel Boys.
Nice.
And my number 1, I have Challengers. And the thing is, I don't know if that's still true, but I'm sticking with it because of the sheer the love that was not given by the Academy. I was not gonna do any questioning or moving about that.
Go off, King.
Number 1. It is. I love a watchable movie. I love a sports movie for someone who doesn't like sports. Like this gave me the feeling what it felt like watching Mighty Ducks 2 back when I was little. Except it was sexier.
Oh,
the music
man.
was better. Yeah, I don't think I have anything much to say. Except I'm kind of happy I own Nickel Boys. I will revisit it probably after the Oscars.
Nice. That's great. I like the list a lot. I really like Challengers as well. Challengers also made my top 10. Let me go through that right now. So my honorable mention that I felt like was worth calling out. So this isn't actually like my number 11, but it is the first one that's not a nominee. It's The Fall Guy. And I needed to call that out because I really thought that was just a real fun popcorn movie and also got no love when it was in theaters and just needed to be said because it's a very watchable, just enjoy it, kick it on with, bucket of popcorn and just have fun. My 10 then are Challengers. I have at 10, but I did really like it. A Complete Unknown. I was surprised by it. Wicked. Another one I was very surprised by. I Saw the TV Glow as my number 7. And I really liked that movie. And I still think about that movie a lot. And now that we are starting to watch Buffy, both of us, on our own, I'm thinking a lot more about that movie.
I have it at 15, so close behind.
Yeah, it's definitely an homage to it. And it's one worth checking out. I put Conclave. I'm starting to kind of waver on whether that deserves that spot there, but that's where I have landed with it. And I still thought it was fun, but it's not, I wasn't blown away by it. The Substance at number 5, Sing Sing at number 4, which I really liked. And I really loved how much it was a real story. Hundreds of Beavers. I got to put that up there. It is so worth watching.
Where are the filmmakers from around here? I think they're Wisconsin or at least Midwest. Is that a thing?
I think So it was actually filmed partially in Wisconsin.
That's what it is.
And I don't remember. I think they are just California filmmakers.
It was probably it being filmed here is what I was thinking of.
It's very weird because it was such an underground movie. Its release date shows 2022, but I don't think it actually got a wide release until last year. So, but I think actually maybe they are kind of from the Midwest. Maybe it is Michigan. I did not do enough research on that, but I do know it was partially filmed in Michigan and in Wisconsin. It's just a super fun movie. If you like silent films and you have a lot of love for like old movies with like big stunt first and practical effects, it's such a wonderfully put together movie. I can't recommend it enough. And I would definitely recommend seeing it in a theater. If you get it with an organ, that's a super plus. But if you can only see it with a regular soundtrack, it's just as fun. It's almost like mind blowing that they were able to pull this together using like classic effects. Nora is number 2. Dune Part 2 is number 1 for me. I'm still just like, where is this movie being represented in this list? And I think that will get us then to where are we landing here? Is Nora going to be the big winner?
I think it is. Like I said, I think the split will be Nora will win Best Picture, and then I think The Brutalist is going to get the Best Director.
Yeah. I think I like that pick a lot. Anything you think, well, of this list, what do you think should win?
I would like it if Nickel Boys won. Nickel Boys, like, I think because it's just, I'm thinking about also what the film is working with like the historical aspect, race relations. It's also beautifully shot. I feel like we've talked about The Brutalist. It kind of feels like a beautiful love letter to the movies that hits some depth, but sometimes doesn't get all the way there for me. Like I feel people did compare it to like PTA, The Master, and There Will Be Blood, and it doesn't quite hit those highs for me. I might like it a little better than The Master. I didn't have as much of an issue with. A lot of people had issues with the second half and what one of the characters does. I won't get into it. And I'll bring it up when I talk about characters like Donald Trump and Guy Pearce's character. They, to me, aren't people who are subtle.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of an artistic choice to have someone whose whole piece, his architecture, is this subtle thing about his pain.
Right.
And then having the person who's jealous of it take action in a way that's so like gaudy and unsubtle and awful, I think is actually really effective. And it doesn't feel cheap to me.
No.
And I thought about The Apprentice kind of at the same time, where that ham-fistedness is because the character's ham-fisted.
Yeah. No, that's a great way to look at it too. And I think The Brutalist is, in my opinion, not a perfect movie. But I do think it's trying so much. And you kind of said it right there too. That ending kicker, you either love that whole reveal or you're just sort of like, wait, what? But I do think that there is so much. I mean, there's so many baffling character choices at the end of that movie that I just still kind of like. I don't know that it's always true to the story we were seeing with some of the choices like Adrian Brody and Felicity Jones make, like their characters. It seems like their characters are just a little like, I don't know. They want to do so much with those two that you're almost like, it feels almost a little untrue when they do make a big choice about like moving or something like that after all this strife that they came to America. And I'm sure there's something to be said about that, and maybe it ages different, but I don't know. I just wish that some things the screws were a little tightened a little bit more on a few parts of that story. But I do think it's beautifully shot. It's worth watching. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, it's so long. And if it's not the best movie out there, I shouldn't watch it. You absolutely should. If for nothing else, develop your own opinion about the movie. And I think we're going to be hearing about Brady Corbett in years and years to come. I think somebody went so bold as to say he kind of has that Nolan-esque like flair to him. And I'm like, It's probably not wrong. I think he's got something else in him that's going to really knock her socks off too.
Did you see Vox Lux?
No,
I did not. I kind of want to go back and check that out now.
I'd be very curious to watch it.
Because I thought this was his first big film, but no, that was a pretty big movie. Not huge, but like, you know, had Natalie Portman, I think Jude Law in it.
Yeah, it's notable. Absolutely. I'm really excited to see Nickel Boys. I think if there was one other movie, I mean, that we didn't really give a lot of time to yet, and we've talked around it a lot, but I think Honora is a really great movie. It's surprisingly funny. It's surprisingly like emotionally like trying on you, and you feel everything that she goes through. Whether or not like you totally agree, like is she owed all this? It's sort of like you are sympathetic, and that's one thing Sean Baker does so well with all of his movies is you start to see why people who are in tougher situations, like why they are the way they are, and you sympathize with them, you empathize with them. You know, it's like, and you're like, that just because somebody does something bad doesn't mean they deserve the life that they're in. You know, like,
Correct.
Whereas you see people who have everything and still decide to be the worst people in the world.
Yeah. We're talking to you, Ray Fiennes.
But yeah, I mean, you give me the vote, I'm going for Dune Part 2. Like I said, I think that's going to be the one movie, and maybe I'll feel that way about Nickel Boys. I'm really sad I didn't get to see it. It just was a very challenging couple of weeks of being sick. You can kind of hear it still in my voice. Of just not being able to get to the theater to see it, and I think I would probably add something at that point, but I'll say something next episode if I feel like it should have won. Yeah. Any other movies you want to say anything about? I don't really feel like going through all the Amelia Perez stuff.
I'm not gonna go deep. I was just looking at my like just general of 2024 to see if there's any movies I wanted to shout out, and I would say Rebel Ridge would be the only one I really would say that people should check out.
Which one was that?
That is the new Jeremy Solner movie with Aaron Pierre. This gentleman, mid-sized sedan from Old,
Oh yeah.
who will be in the Green Lantern TV show. This guy's got the goods. This movie is kind of interesting because it reminded me a little bit of The Wire, where we're gonna have this crime drama, but we're also gonna we're going to show you the shoe leather of the system. And that's what this movie is. And I think that kind of hit people in a little weird ways because, like, if you watch the trailer, it's like this guy who's ex-Marine on his bike and he gets messed with by the cops and they mess with the wrong guy. The type of movie I'm going to love and show up to every time. And of course, I'm loving late period Don Johnson and stuff. I just threw on the Watchmen TV show because they put it back on Max.
Oh yeah.
And he's a presence and stuff.
He's not in there for long, but he makes a mark.
Yes,
he's good. Yeah, I love looking ahead and trying to see some stuff too. I wish I had written down some movies that are coming out too, but I think the only other movie I wanted to even make anything mentioned of that was kind of a surprise this year was Late Night with the Devil this year.
Yeah.
I thought that was I don't know that movie 100% worked for me, but I really liked what they were trying to do with
I had
it.
a great time watching.
Yeah.
Don't really think about it anymore, but I had a great time.
It's had that 70s vibe that's kind of coming back. I'm trying to even think if there's other movies that are nominated that we didn't get to touch on. You mentioned Nosferatu. That's one I really want to see. September 5th was really good too. That got nominated for Best Original Screenplay. That's all about the Munich hostage situation back in the 1972 Olympics. And yeah, there's the husband from Past Lives is in that.
Joe
God, I want to see that guy in more stuff. He just
well, you need to watch Many Saints of Newark, where he plays what's his name?
Which one?
They're all like that.
Silvio?
Yeah, Silvio.
Yeah, I got my pop.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, he's blocked right now by some cards that I haven't put away yet. But yeah, the only other movie that I really thought blew me away because I also watched it on the plane and it did make my top 20 was called Dee Dee. And it was about it had the one actress from Twin Peaks. her name Joni? Oh, God, it's the woman who owns the sawmill.
Yes, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, she's like a mom of like a first generation American boy, and he's just going through like all this tough time at school, and you kind of feel that story like of like how tough it is being in middle school and trying to like make your mark, and it's like time when they're like making skater videos too, like early to mid 2000s, and I really felt that era. I'm just like, I felt like that's a time that like you and I, when we grew up, then you'll really see about it and feel it.
Did you watch Saturday Night?
I did not. What were your thoughts?
I like seeing people play other people I know. Like, I don't, it's not a very good like movie, but I mean, the guy who's playing Chevy Chase is really good.
Who is that?
I don't know his name off the top of my head, but I know he was in May December.
Oh, okay.
And he's like the son who has the band, and he has that like really good scene where it's like, I think Natalie Portman goes to talk to him, and he's like the son from the previous marriage, and he's got like a bunch of, you can tell he's got issues. But he was also the Riddler in the Gotham show.
Oh, okay. I did think that guy was pretty good. Yeah. Okay. Nice. That's, I don't know.
If you like Saturday Night Live and you think it's interesting to see people like attempt to play other people, like the guy who's playing Aykroyd, there's like a scene where he just goes like full Aykroyd, and I'm like, well, this is worth my 90 minutes seeing like this business.
Yeah. I guess, I don't know. I enjoyed the 50th anniversary of SNL the other night, and I sort of missed those bygone eras, and it was fun seeing some people come out, but I'm also just like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, I think I'd just almost rather watch the old SNL sketches, you know, I'm like, just remember those times.
Yeah.
Is that the end of our episode then here, Fred?
That's it.
I mean, I think we covered about everything we can. Like I said, it wasn't a super deep year for movies, but I think the ones that were out there are really good. I don't know. What's maybe your surprise prediction if you had one like parting surprise, if you had to pick anything? Could be anything about the ceremony.
I would like the surprise of like a Nickel Boys winning Best Picture.
Yeah.
It is getting like, it's a very quiet steam, but a lot of people are talking about it more. That's like more available. Trying to think if there was any other. That's really the one for me that I'd get excited about. The others are kind of like, I mean, I really don't want to see Amelia Perez like sweep or anything. That'll be a bummer night.
Yeah.
You might have to call into work and whip out your year-old Guinnesses or something and get wild.
There's plenty here for you, man. Yeah, I think if I had one thing that's going to be kind of boring, but I think because of that whole Amelia Perez, kind of the negative steam that it's been having and its fall, I do think this could be Sean Baker's coming out party this Sunday, and that Nora could win a lot of awards, and I think it's going to certainly turn some heads. And I think I'm a little nervous how he's going to respond to that. I hope he just stays true to himself if it does come, but it's all well deserved if it does.
I've been eyeing that Criterion. It looks cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice little disc. And I still don't have a Criterion in my collection.
I think we're going to need to take some pictures of your collection soon, Fred.
It's small but mighty.
Yeah.
Get in there.
You need to share some on our social. So I think that gets us to the end of the episode then. Now, anything you want to plug, knowing we're, at the time of release, we're going into Oscar weekend here.
All right, so we're hoping to have this dropped in time for Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
March 15th, I will be performing with Fractal, opening for Commando. And I believe that's a Saturday.
Okay.
And then March 21st is a Friday. I'm doing it's a multiple two-person improv show. It's called Blind Date. A bunch of improvisers will be assigned partners like right before the show starts. And then it'll be two-person improv scenes, kind of much like improv usually is, right off the dome. It'll also be interesting because, you know, you could get someone you've never worked with before. So it'll be a fun show. A lot of quick bites of improv.
All right. Check that out at theinterchangetheater.com. As far as where we're at now, if you like this episode, remember to rate and review where we're at now. I just want to plug the show is what I mean. Where are we at now? I mean, we're on social, though. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, YouTube. Join our Patreon. Just $1 a month for exclusive content. You'll be getting one episode per month, a bonus episode, that is. It's so worth it, you guys. We got a lot of fun stuff coming. We're getting into our end of the year best ofs. In fact, that's our next Patreon. If you're keeping track or you're keeping score at home, it's going to be the best TV of 2024. So very similar, but we're just going to kind of talk about the hits that we saw last year. And I wanted to give a special thanks to Nick Spitza and Mike Schwantz for opening and closing themes of the show. And also stay tuned for our next main feed episode, which is going to be on Bond. James Bond. In fact, we're talking about the man who said the movies.
The movies, man.
It's the Sean Connery catalog of James Bond. I'm very excited to get started into this, Fred.
Mm-hmm. I started cracking into the Connerys. There's a lot more than I thought there were.
Oh, yeah. Are you going to watch Never Say Never Again? It's not required viewing.
No, so I'm going off of what I can find at Media Exchange, because although I don't collect DVDs, it's cheaper than renting them, a lot of the Bond movies. So I've been getting the DVDs and I've been donating them to Schwantz's media library.
Oh, wonderful.
So it kind of works out. He let me borrow a couple of his Blu-rays so I could catch Goldfinger, and I think he had Dr. No.
Oh, nice.
I was really excited to see. I never saw Dr. No. And so I still got like 3 left to watch, and Sean's getting tired.
He's getting old. He gets old quick, but they're fun. So stay tuned for that episode, and we'll see you next time.
Got no cares, 'cause all I wanna do is charge my phone, drive, listen,